Hello, how are you doing? I'm just sharing links that let people know I'm live. Can you hear me okay? Probably not. The microphone's not in the right spot. How about now? Okay, so I'm making walls for my dungeon tiles today. A variety of sizes there, but I want to copy this exact size for the walls. And I don't have a lot of materials to do this, so we'll see how. I'm really not even going to measure a whole lot. I just want to make a bunch of things that are this size. I'm just going to, and all I've got is small pieces of pink foam. I don't have like the big house installation stuff. So I'm just going to make a little mark right there. And then use my square. Just slice this right down. Of course not. I will probably be using this footage for the actual build video that'll be posted on Tuesday. Hi, how are you doing? Just starting to cut my pieces to make walls for my dungeon tiles. And I'm going to make them the same size as this 3x2 tile that I have. It actually works out to be a good height with the minis and everything like that. So I've got 3 strips of this foam cut so far to the width. And now I'm just going to measure out the height and cut those out. Let's see how many we got after that. Boom, and that's gone too. People are popping in, popping out, probably because I'm not talking while I'm doing this. I talk to nobody. How we doing today? So I'm just measuring out pieces for my dungeon walls using this tile reference. It's kind of a boring and painstaking process. It'd be a lot easier, you know, if I had a Proxon or something like that. But I don't. But the pieces of foam I'm using are thin enough that I can just use my hobby knife to cut them. Hi, how are you? Welcome to my first ever live stream. I have no idea what I'm doing or if I'm going to be entertaining or not, but that was going to be a little high, so as I was saying, this would be a lot easier, you know, if I had a Proxon wire cutter or something like that, but I don't. But I've got the piece of foam I'm using are basically thin sheets. So a hobby knife and a square are really good enough. Does the job. Where was the other big one? I know I had one. Maybe not. Okay. They're just like regular plain generic tiles. You can use them for whatever you want. I don't like to make things specifically for one game. You know what I mean? I like to be able to use them for multiple things because I live in a very small space and I don't have a lot of room for storage. So things that I can use for more than one game, more than one purpose is best for me. So I try to go really generic. Like the Tench Crusade walls I did a couple of weeks ago. Okay, for Trench Crusade, but you know, they also fit well with my dungeon tiles, and you know, if you're playing D&D and your players are exploring abandoned mine or something, that aesthetic works very well for that too. So just generic crap. This unfortunately takes longer than it would, but I don't have the right equipment. That's fine. All right, so this is my actual tile, and I'm making the walls the same size. And it works out to be a pretty good height. Like I used Gandalf for my reference making the tiles, so we'll use Gandalf here too. So it works out pretty well. I don't know if you can see the height. It's fine, good enough. And that's kind of like the the premise of my channel. Good enough is okay, right? Yeah. Generic. That's the way I like to go. I'm going to need a lot more of these, so I'm going to cut up a whole nother sheet. I got these from Amazon in like a pack of, I don't know, 10 or 12, for like $20. I would much rather have had the big insulation style, but this is all I could afford at the time. And I've made a number of projects with this foam. They're just going to be laid out next to each other. I don't have any magnets. That would be ideal. actually very ideal, and I'm kicking myself that I don't have any. So what I'm planning on doing is to get these to stand upright, I'm going to put like a wedge on the outside here to look like stonework, like you would see like on a flying buttress or something like that. So it'll fit the aesthetic. It won't look out of place, I hope. Um, and then I'm also just going to have a few of these with like nothing on them, in case, you know, though your layout of your dungeon has two rooms side by side, um, it'll stand up on its own with the two next to each other. But yeah, magnets would absolutely be ideal. I just can't do that right now. So watch me as I cut foam. Very exciting. This thing I have had forever and a day. I lost the little doohickey that clamps this part to the ruler. So while I do use the metal ruler for a lot of measuring and a lot of cutting, whenever I need to use it as a square, I've got to tape that bit on. It's annoying. Yes, but again, it still works. Say you got my channel recommended yesterday. Was that through YouTube? Did it pop up on your feed? Is that what happened? Because I really don't imagine that anybody's talking about my channel. I'm kind of small. Yeah, YouTube feed. Okay, cool. Nice to know that it's working the way it should. That that Trench Crusade video was good for me. My subscriber count went way up. It's got over 5,000 views, which, you know, for a small channel like mine, I was very ecstatic to see. So that kind of emboldened me to try doing this live thing, just to see if anybody would want to pay attention, chit chat. So I'm probably not going to be doing anything with these things that you haven't seen before, to be honest. Like all of the techniques I'm going to be doing is pretty much standard stuff for making foam look like stone, you know? So I don't know how long I'm going to be. I'm only planning on doing this for a couple of hours today. That all depends on how many people will be watching. How many people are watching? 4. 4 of you. That's awesome. 4 is better than none. So, guys have any questions? Like, what the heck am I doing? Who doesn't know what I'm doing? I feel like I don't need new inventions, just need somebody to watch fight through the regular stuff to get motivated to do it. Yeah. Getting started is the hardest thing. And I'll tell you something. When I started doing the YouTube channel, like, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, that kind of helped my motivation to get stuff done, though I wasn't consistent with it. So, when 2025 came around, I just said, look, I'm committing myself to doing one video a week, um, every Tuesday. So far, so good. Um, it's a little bit difficult for me because I do have ADHD and my mind goes a lot of other places sometimes, or I may get bored with a project midway and stop working on it and do something else. So I do have some projects here that are unfinished, and I don't know if I'll ever get back to them. Hopefully, I do, because I thought they were pretty good ideas. Not very long. I haven't been crafting very long at all. Honestly, I only started crafting when I started the channel. Um, I've been painting minis for a while, and always liked the idea of being able to make my own stuff and put it on the table. I just never knew how. A lot of YouTube channels help out, so I started doing this, like I said, as mostly as a motivator for myself to do things and get things done. But at the same time, I made sure that I included in my videos, um, showing my mistakes, showing how I fix things, and that has resonated with some people because a lot of the big YouTubers, you get like very polished videos. You really don't see them making mistakes, but they've been doing this for a long time. They know what they're doing, so they're probably not making mistakes. But people that aren't pros at this, we're make mistakes, or maybe we don't have all the right tools or all the right materials to get things done quickly and easily. Um, so I make sure that I show in my videos, using basic materials, basic tools, because all I have is basic materials and basic tools, and you can still make stuff that's decent with just basic things. Okay, focus and yeah, that for me is just a matter of willpower. I do come up with the idea for the project, and I do spend some time thinking about, how to go about doing it. What do I already know how to do? Because sometimes I will come up with a project and not know how to do a certain aspect of it. So I'll spend time thinking about it, or maybe doing some research. I do a lot of research, and I do learn from other people, but at the same time, I do try to come up with my own ways of doing things. Like I said, especially like I said, since I'm limited with what I have. So um, so how long have you guys been doing this? Are you here to learn from me, or point and laugh? what? What? Lost some people. That's all right. Okay, so that one's a little long. That's fine. Okay, so I think I've got enough. What do I got here? 3, 6, 9. So I got 18 pieces. Yeah, that should be enough to go with for now. Put these over to the side. They're out of the way. I read Dungeon Tiles and just want to take a look. Oh, okay. Interested? Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to start getting that stone texture. I'm going to just take a piece of foil. Back there. crumple it up into a loose kind of ball, and just use these textures on the foam. And what this is going to do is create a texture that when it gets painted, washed, and dry brushed will eventually look something like this. So I don't know if you can see. Can you see? Yeah, you can kind of see the texture that got pushed into there. So now I'm gonna, because these are walls, because these are going to get painted on both sides. And then I'm going to do the edges, because the edges will be seen. Choose one of these sides as the top. Just gonna bang that. That'll round the corners a little bit. So there. Now we've got stony texture on all sides of the thing except for the very bottom. What I'm going to do later is take some screws and screw them in on the bottom to give these weight, because this foam has virtually no weight at all, and I don't want things falling down. That would be, in lieu of using magnets, as you asked earlier, adding weight to these things helps keep them in place. So when I was a kid, I got a lot into building models, cars. Oh, excuse me. Cars, and then when I was a teenager, when Robotech was on the air, I bought model kits of the Veritech fighters that they weren't true transforming Veritechs. They were parts forming, I guess you'd call them. Where you would just swap out parts to get the different forms of the transformation of those fighters. And I built models like that. I had one of those invisible V8 engines that worked, on battery power. I don't know if you guys have seen those. Those have been around forever. I had a P-51 Mustang that was also see-through, that was on a stand. And the landing gear operated, and the flaps and all that stuff. You can move that. Unfortunately, I don't have any of those model kits anymore. They're long gone. The ones that had clear plastic started falling apart because at the time I was using strictly Testors glue and Testors paints, and that glue just ate away the plastic. And clear plastic especially, and the stuff just fell apart. So I was always into wanting to small things, and I was also always fascinated by model railroads. And that was something that my dad and I wanted to do. We went to a hobby store a few times. That's gone now. It was the railroading store. And we bought some tracks and some engines and some cars, and we were, my dad bought magazines, so we were looking at how to do, how to make the stuff, but we never really did it, unfortunately. And then when I found out, the Star Wars special effects were all models and everything, I wanted to do that. I wanted to be one of those guys that just built models out of like parts and worked on the movies. That's what I wanted to do. And it never panned out because I never really pursued it. So when I started seeing things on YouTube of people making stuff like this, I'm like, man, I've been playing D&D since 1979. I've been um, always wanted to learn how to paint minis, always wanted to learn how to make stuff like this. And now I can, and I am, and I'm just having a great time. I love doing it. So this putting this texture on these, it's going to take a while. That's why people like to watch the finished videos on YouTube, because you don't get to see how much time goes into making all of this stuff. Especially if you don't make this stuff, you'll see people just apply texture to one side of this and then jump cut and all 18 pieces are done, But it takes a while to do it all. Yeah, the love of making fantasies and minds come to life. Yeah, exactly. And the more of this that I do, the more ideas I get for new things. And I'm real excited about it. So I have notebooks here behind me. Each has a specific purpose, and I have one specifically for the channel and for jotting down ideas or making notes, so that when I record voiceovers, I remember what kind of paint I'm doing. If people want to know what kind of paint, what color paint I use, and what brand and whatever. But I also have a few pages set aside there to jot down all of my ideas. And what I think is really cool is, I have enough ideas to, make a video a week for over a year. It's got this gigantic list. Now, of course, that means that also includes a whole series for the painting the Hero Quest minis, where, like last week I did the undead. I'll do one that's just the orcs or just the goblins, just the I want to say Kuatoa, because that's what they look like, the D&D creature, just the gargoyle, that stuff like that. So, that will kind of pad out my posting schedule. And also behind me, I don't think you can see. Oh yeah, I have Mansions of Madness. I'm going to paint all those minis too. That's such a fun game. If you've never played it, and you like Cthulhu style horror, it's a fun game. My wife and I love playing it. But yeah, that one has a ton of minis in it too, and I plan on painting all of those up as well. This banging sound must be annoying. It's annoying me. I'm sitting right in front of it. One person. So you're still here. You're the only person watching. I appreciate that. So do you craft? Do you paint minis? Do you play games? with all the tools and you would never do. Oh, stop it, big dumb dumb. Give it a try. Just start doing it. There are a lot of beginner tutorials on YouTube. That's how I started. You know, um, I try not to post tutorials because I still feel like I'm a beginner myself. But um, just start doing it. Don't be afraid of failure or doing a bad job. Nothing's going to be perfect the first time you try something. Just do it. Because that was a problem I had to for a long time. When I was younger, in high school, back in the 80s, I was playing D&D with my friends, and we had a lot of the Ral Partha minis, the metal ones that look terrible by today's standards now. And we were, all of us, afraid to paint them. We tried some, and stuff never looked right, and it was simply because we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know how to do it. So we were using the wrong kind of paints too. That's another thing. Well, I suppose there's really no right or wrong way to use paints, because I've seen people paint fantastic minis using just oil paints or just ink. But back then, when all we really had access to were the little glass bottles of the Tetra enamel paint, that didn't work quite well, because you couldn't do corrections. You really couldn't do anything. You couldn't really do anything with it other than slap it on there. And it tended to have a glossy finish no matter what. And we were also kids. We weren't trying to be pros at it. So sometimes our minis looked terrible, and and because none of us could figure it out, we didn't bother learning. But don't let fear of failure or anything like that stop you, because I'll tell you, this is actually a very fun hobby. I started finally painting minis about 3 years ago, and it was fear of not doing a good job that stopped me. There's a brown box right here that is full of old metal minis from the early 2000s that I got from a friend, and they just sat in the box for a long time. And I think it was just, one day somebody's mini painting tutorial video popped up on my feed, and I went, I should probably try that. And I had some paints already from painting Gundam kits. You can't see them here, but they're on all my Gundam models are up on top of these shelves behind me. So I said, you know what? I'm just going to give it a try. I had some brushes, I had some paints, and said, I can do this. And I did. And I think my first one I did is up here somewhere. Here she is. This is the first one I did. It's probably not going to be in focus or anything, but it's one of the little metal minis from that box. And it's not bad, but it's not good. It's, it's fine, but I had to use, because I can't see up close, I had to use this magnifying glass with the light so I could see. It was difficult, but I did it, and I enjoyed the process, so I decided to keep going. Lots of 40K, lots of D&D stuff, lots of crafting stuff, and way too many started way too many started projects. Plus one, exactly. Gundam kits. Yep. My weather wash. I have behind me here I'm gonna have to make more soon. I've got a homemade black wash here that's mostly black paint, some brown, some green, water, um, dish soap, and I think maybe some isopropyl alcohol. I can't remember. It was so long ago that I made it. But that's what I'm going to use to wash. After I get all the texture pounded in and the lines cut for the stone, I'm gonna apply a coat of Mod Podge with some dark gray or black paint in it. I'm not exactly sure. Probably dark gray, because things like this, the dungeon tiles, they get banged around, they get used, and I found that having that kind of plasticky coating of the Mod Podge as a base on foam for that helps to give it a bit of protection. So yeah, once I get all of this stuff textured, I'll be using Mod Podge with some paint mixed in, paint the whole thing, wait for that to dry, and then I'm just going to use the black wash, and then a couple of different colors for dry brushing, and call it a day. That's it. These are really simple to do. It's just time consuming to just make a bunch of them. But I'm not going to skip any steps for the sake of the video. I'm happy to tell you my process. But if I skip steps, my ADHD rattled brain will not be happy. So I have to stay with the program here. I can't see my screen. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but this is the first time I've live streamed anything. So I'm having a hard time remembering to look at the camera when I'm talking. I have my PC off to the side here so that I can see any questions and comments you guys have. And okay, so that's half of them banged up with the foil, with that texture. See that texture? It's pretty easy to do, but like I said, it's just time consuming. Mainly listen. Yep. So for the person who asked about the wash, this is eventually the finish I'm going for. These are the tiles that I already made. So for the walls, I'm going to try to duplicate this the best I can, so that they match. And I had used that black wash on these. Thank you. By the way, my name is Eric too. Not Eric too, but Eric as well. Happy to have you guys here. It's nice to know that I'm not talking to myself. So I am not sure exactly how long I'm going to be going live. I do know, like I said earlier, that what I'm doing here live is going to be part of the video I'm going to be posting next Tuesday. So it's kind of like you guys are getting a sneak peek into my video creation process a little bit. This will be all the stuff going on that you don't see in a finished video, because like I said, it takes forever to do this kind of stuff. All right. Thank you, man. Have a good day. So I'm going to go back and address, what was it? 40K, a lot of 40K, a lot of D&D. Way too many started projects. Yeah. So how much 40K have you painted? Is it, how much do you have? Pile of shame is probably large. I like to call it the pile of opportunity, because that's how I see it. It's each project that I do, each painting that I do, it's an opportunity for me to either practice what I'm doing or try a new technique. And sometimes I document that on my channel, sometimes I don't. I did a video once where I tried wet blending for the very first time on the video. Never practiced. I just read up on it, the process, how to do it, and just tried it while the camera was running, and it came out pretty good, I think. I mean, it could be a lot better, obviously, because, you know, practice makes things better. But yeah, just do. Paint your minis, build some stuff. You know, it doesn't even matter how good or bad you think your stuff looks, because I mean, ultimately, who's it for? You know, are you going to a game store and playing with other people, or are you just playing with some friends at home? Either way, it shouldn't matter. But I would say that if you're just playing with friends or family at home, you know, doesn't matter how good or how bad you think what you've done is, as long as it's serviceable and works. I mean, look, I've used like boxes of mac and cheese and soup cans from time to time to represent terrain, because I didn't have what I needed. It's, you know, who cares? It doesn't matter. The point is you have fun doing it. You know, it's a hobby. And if, you know, if the hobby isn't fun, don't do it. If you do have fun doing it, in the end, it really doesn't matter how good or bad it looks. The point is that you have fun, because that's the point of a hobby. And it's exactly what I've told my kids, because they have hobbies too, and they sometimes fret about not being good enough or whatever. And I tell them, like, did you have fun? Yeah. And that's all that matters. Have fun. 40K, half finished combat patrol, Death Guard, Age of Sigma, started combat patrol, but on like 2 other boxes that I didn't even start to bet. Yeah. Yeah, Warhammer has a lot of stuff, don't they? Especially if you're building 1,000-point armies. It's a lot. But that's why they've invented things like the slap chop method and stuff like that, so you can get your armies batch painted quick. And, you know, I own a 3D printer, and the amount of files I own is reaching immeasurable. Yeah, because I can't even remember some of the stuff. Yep. Man, a little envious, because I would love to have a 3D printer. Yeah, and this is something that I don't like to admit, but the amount of unpainted minis I have are this box and that brown box. That's it. And then, of course, I got the minis from Inches of Madness, HeroScape, Hero Quest. That's it. That's all I have. I don't play Warhammer. And I don't, I mean, I would love to, but I can't afford it, and I can't afford decent proxies either. So, you know, having a 3D printer, man, I would love that, because STL files are just, they're dirt cheap. And I have some here, you know, Loot Box has free stuff, so I grab some of those sometimes, hoping someday, if I do have a printer, I can print them up. What are those boxes on the shelf below? Gundam kits. Oh, where? These? Oh, all right. These? Yes, those are Gundam kits in various stages of completion. They are all built out of the box built. the majority of them have not been panel lined or decaled or anything away. They're just built and in the box because I had plans for making dioramas with them. Those are the ones that I bought and built specifically to make dioramas. And I haven't made the dioramas because I never knew how to go about doing it. I do now. So part of what you may see if you're paying attention to my channel later on in the year, you may see a Gundam diorama or two pop up as a video. I do plan on doing those. And I have one kit back here, the gun. I am going to attempt to kit bash that into a Space Marine. I think that would be really fun, and I think it will work. And I think I've got enough bits and pieces and modeling clay and stuff to be able to do it. So we'll see. Oh, this channel was nice. I do. Yeah, I do. I try to. Yeah. There are, honestly, look, there are some videos that I post that do better than others because more people want to see them. Like the Crusade stuff right now is very popular. And I'll be honest, I made those trench walls just kind of right on the coattails of the popularity of that game. And I'm not ashamed to admit that. But like I was saying earlier, I can use those walls for a lot of other things. That's why I really did make them kind of generic, you know. And yeah, Gundam kits. I've been building Gunpla for a while. I'm not going to move my camera right now to show you, but like I said, they are all up on the top shelf behind me. And I'd be happy to talk about that too. If anybody's willing to listen. All right, so I got some more people. So for people here that are new, I've been blabbing on about a lot of other things. I am currently pounding texture into some foam to make it look like stone for my dungeon walls to go with my dungeon tiles, which look like this. I do have a whole bunch of different sizes, but my walls are going to be the same size as this because they will fit a mini kind of perfectly for what I want to do here at home. So I cut out 18 of these, and I'm currently just using a piece of crumpled up foil to just mash some texture into the foam. Takes a while. I'm almost done. I got 5 left, and then I can move on to the next step. Yippee skippy. What am I going to be? Yeah. So. I am still undecided exactly the size and shape I want to make these stones because ideally I would like them to be different sizes and things like that. But I think, you know, if you're going to represent, you know, a dungeon, the aesthetic, and again, I'm just trying to just do very generic looking stuff. And since this is what I'm already starting with, I think you probably uniform stones cutting these things would be best, or as uniform as possible. I may freehand it. I think I'm going to try that first. Freehanding cutting the rock shapes. See how that goes. Which might work. So somebody had asked earlier if I was going to be using magnets, and while I do love that idea, and if I had some magnets, yes, these would all be magnetized so that they don't slide all over the place. But I don't have magnets, and you know they'd be upgradable. Do it if I wanted to. But what I'm going to plan on doing for this is for the outer walls, I'm just going to if you want to just get completely blunt about it, I'm just going to like a wedge on either side of these so that they don't fall off. But make it look like it's still made out of stone, kind of almost like a flying buttress type of thing, so that it doesn't look out of place. And then I'm gonna have some that are just going to be nothing, that'll just stand up this, because what if you've got two rooms that are next to each other, but there is a wall? You're gonna want that, and just pushing these together is gonna hold it up. My players tend to be, where they're adults and they don't bang around the table a whole lot, so I am not too concerned about stuff moving around all that much. If I was playing with some kids, then yeah, but even my own children are grown up, so it's because ultimately I am making these things for me. It's not really a tutorial on to show anybody the right or wrong way to do it. Okay. Anyway, 4 more to go. Yay. Thank you all for dropping in today. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. This is my first live stream ever, and I am an old man, and technology scares me. No, it doesn't. I grew up with computers. I'm Gen X. But I'm glad that, I spent some time yesterday morning making sure everything worked, which was great. Everything does. I hope everybody can hear me properly. I had my stepson helping me out yesterday, and he said that the video and the audio dropped out from time to time, but I hope it's not doing that today. Something new here. Oh, Campaign Terrain, how are you? You had a live the other day. Yes, I did. I was testing out my equipment. So I really wasn't. That was yesterday. I wasn't really doing it for real. I was just making sure everything worked. I had it was set. The first one was accidentally set to public. And then I kept doing a few over and over again yesterday throughout the morning, set to private. My stepson was helping me troubleshoot the technical issues and to make sure that I had it right, so that when I did this today, everything was smoothly. So, yeah. And I know live streams are popular. This is weird for me because I'm not a talker. I'm like a nervous talker, maybe. It's weird because I know that when you're doing a live stream, you have to constantly be talking or answering questions or whatever. Otherwise, it's boring to watch. So coming up with things to say is a little hard. That's why I kind of keep checking the screen to see if anybody's got questions, to check to see how many people are watching. Because if the count starts going up, then I've got something to talk about because I can explain what I'm doing to the new people. So yeah, live streams are bizarre. But I like that YouTube saves the videos because I can go back and edit some of this and use it for the actual wall creation video later. Because this is all the stuff that you wouldn't see in a posted, polished, crafting video. The hours and stuff that it takes to do all this boring over and over, pounding a piece of foil into the foam, Because like I was saying, you don't see that in the finished videos. You just see somebody start the process, and then the frame jumps and all of it's done all of a sudden. The magic of TV, the magic of editing. But yeah, I thought, since I'm sitting here doing this, I could be listening to music, I could be watching some anime, but I've tried watching TV while I work, and I can't pay attention to both things at the same time. Uh, Mostly because a lot of the anime I watch is not dubbed, and I don't know Japanese. So um, I thought, what? Why not try a live stream and just see what happens? Then I can jibber jab, or at least attempt to, while I'm doing this. Even after playing RPG since the 70s, I only have what about the game? Yeah, yeah. I don't have a whole lot of minis either, obviously. But I've found that I actually do love painting them. I get this really bizarre sense of joy out of doing it. You know, um, it's just become a very very fun thing for me. Yeah, and yeah, like I said, I started playing D&D in 1979. I remember exactly. I was in third grade, and one of my classmates brought in the Moldave uh, basic rule book, and he was reading it, and I just went over to him and I said, "What's that?" And he showed me. He let me flip through the pages, and I was immediately hooked. I was just like, I need to learn this. Um, so I went over to his house on a weekend, not too long after that. It's so long ago. I mean, it was third grade, it's 1979 for crying out loud. Um, and we started playing through a little bit of the Keep on the Borderlands, and that got me hooked. And yeah, for decades I played D&D without minis at all, like at all. It wasn't until third edition came out, and I had my regular group at the time was wife and two of her coworkers, and because the combat system in third edition, I wouldn't necessarily say it focused a whole lot on having minis on your table and on grid. It certainly helped the process of um, expediting combat if you could do that. So that's when I really started using minis a whole lot. When I was a kid, we had minis just to have them. We really didn't use them while we were playing. We were just like, oh, this one looks cool. This one looks cool. We would get old copies of Dragon magazine, and we just would drool over the Ralpartha ads that were in there. It's like, oh my god, look at this! I wish I could have that. Um, man, nostalgia. But yeah, man, it's just I like having things on the table now. Theater of Mind is great. I'm actually going to be starting work as a pro DM, and that's going to be all online with a bunch of strangers, and it's still mostly going to be Theater of the Mind. I mean, it'll be functioning on Roll20, but you could, and I've hosted games with friends and family over Discord where it's completely Theater of the Mind. I may drop a map for them to look at, but yeah, I mean, you played old school D&D and grew up with it. Everything was Theater of the Mind. It's just in your imagination. But like there is something to be said, just to having some cool looking stuff sitting on your table, and a little bit of a sense of pride when you've made it yourself, and you could say, "Look what I did," and that look cool. Maybe it's just me. Okay, so this is the last one I'm going to texture. I don't know if I'm going to make any more than 18 of these or not. Maybe. I don't know. Kind of running out of foam. Probably not. This is probably going to be all that I make. Oh, my throat's getting dry. Around 2004, I got a Ralpartha Dragon. I knew the box, never opened it because I don't really paint minis. I don't want to misplace any pieces. Yeah. Yep. I do have some here that I'm afraid to touch because they are so cool. I'm afraid I'm going to wreck them. You know, I do have a couple of dragons that I really want to paint up. I have one that was a gift. Oop. Ah! Hang on a sec. Let me get my life in order here. Okay, I'm not going to need this anymore for now. Go away. It's hiding. So this one that I really want to paint up, the nerdy book dragon. It's in 4 pieces: the base, the body, and both of the wings are all separate. And it's kind of big-ish. And it's hefty, and it's a pretty good sculpt. It's not bad. And I want to paint this sucker up so bad, because I love reading. I mean, like I said, it was a gift from a friend who knows that I love to read. And yeah, it's just, this is one of the ones that I'm afraid to touch. Probably won't touch it until I get an airbrush, because the color scheme is that I'm thinking about doing it. It would need an airbrush for sure. Okay. All right. So the next step, let me just check to see I'm losing people. The next step is I am going to take 2 minutes and refill my coffee cup. I will be right back, I promise. All right, as promised, I am back. Thanks for sticking around. Really hope I'm not boring anybody to death. Jeez, I should have some music playing. That'd be nice. But maybe next time, if I do it next time. Nice dragon. Yeah, airbrush. Yeah, airbrushing would make it easier. Some dragons hoard gold, others hoard books. Yes, I am a book dragon. I do hoard books. I've got bookshelves all over my apartment, and I'll be honest, the main reason that I even that I for this apartment is because there were bookshelves built into the walls. I was just like, oh. Just yeah, thank you, yes please. Okay. But yeah, I've got bookshelves all over the apartment, and they're full, and boxes of books in the basement that I haven't even packed yet after 8 years. Because I just don't have room for them. So yeah, I am one of those book dragons for sure. Okay, so what I'm gonna do next is, now that I have, and you know what, it took an hour to cut out 18 of these pieces and texture them. That's that's not a whole lot of time really. So this could be something that you could get done in an afternoon, at least up to the point of applying your base of Mod Podge or whatever you're going to put to color this. You could get this project done in a weekend, because I got to stop when I put the Mod Podge on it, because that's got to dry before I can do anything else, right? So what I'm going to do now with these is I'm going to use my hobby knife, and I am going to lightly etch lines in here for the stones, and then use pencil to widen those lines that I cut. And then I'll show you exactly what that's going to do. And I really am just going to do this hands-free, so that I want to have semi-uniform size stones, but I don't want them to be perfect, not like somebody like laid brick, so just lightly scoring here. And I know you're not going to be able to see if I hold it up. No. So I cut 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, and now I'm just going to use the pencil to go back over it. A dull pencil, by the way, because you want that rounded edge. And just lightly go over the foam like this, just kind of push it in. And you get something like that, where you can see these. Okay. Now, because these are going to be 3-dimensional, they're not tiles like I did before. They're going to be upright. I want to make sure that I carry these cut lines all the way around, because I do want them to look like just one stone thick walls, So what I'm going to do is just kind of, again, make a few cuts here in the sides and on this side, because what I want to do is, and then I'm going to widen these out on both sides, because it's going to better help me eyeball the longer cuts I need to make on this side here, where the start and end points are going to be. Right? So you can see I've gone around the sides, and now I can see where they are there. I can start on one end, and then I've got a spot to aim for. Am I making sense? I hope so. And like I said, these lines don't need to be straight the way I'm doing it, but I do want to make sure that I am meeting those side cuts on both ends, and then going over it again with the pencil. And that is that. I mean, it's not that. We're going to do the vertical cuts, but you can see that I don't know, what do you want to call it? Cut, trough? I don't know. It goes all the way around, so it makes sense. If you do this, please make sure that you're not pushing down too far because if you're going to be doing both sides, you could potentially wind up cutting through and cutting your wall in half. Speaking from experience. So, be very, very gentle with that. So now what I'm going to do is the vertical cuts, and I really am just going to try to randomize where they are so that the stones look different sizes. One thing I do want to keep in mind when I do this is that when I cut on one row, I want to try to offset the cuts on the next row, so that the bricks they're going to look like this. You know what I mean? Of course you do. Okay. So, yep, just cutting these. And, doing these offset cuts, they don't have to be exactly in the middle of the row underneath. I mean, off to one side or whatever. Just make sure that the lines you're cutting are not right above each other. That's all. So you can see something like that. I think I need a new blade. This one's not all that sharp. And again, something that's going to take a while, and there really isn't. I mean, if you're working with foam, there are ways to do this. You can either purchase or make a texture roller that you can push down, just roll it across, and it'll just push that texture right in there. I was thinking about actually making my own, because I've got plaster and I've got one clay, and I was thinking that, hey, maybe I could make a roller by pouring some plaster out flat, and then once it dries, just carving the texture into it, and then taking some mod clay, wrapping it around a dowel or something, and then rolling the clay over that texture I made, and then letting the clay dry. The problem with that is the plaster takes 24 hours to dry. The clay that I have is an air dry clay that takes 2 to 3 days to dry, and that just wasn't going to work for this because I didn't get started on making these until this morning, and there was not going to be enough time for me to do that. I may do it someday, and when I say may, I probably will, because there are some textures I would like to be able to duplicate once for things. Okay, so this wall side is done. What I'm going to do now is the same thing that I did on the sides here, is continue these lines over so that, and then make sure I duplicate them going up there so that this looks like, blocks of stone, complete blocks of stone sitting there. Yeah, man. So it looks like proper stonework. I mean, I'm not trying to be perfect here. I think I've made that clear. But I do want to make sure that what I'm making is somewhat believable. So that looking at it makes sense, right? So now I'm just going to continue these cuts from around the other side. Oh, wrong utensil. There. So this side here, and as you turn it over, you can see that those stones continue on. So it looks like full stone sitting there. It's, you know, just a little bit of detail to, again, help make it a little bit believable. The rest of it isn't going to matter so much. Like, yes, the idea I'm trying to go with here is that I've got a wall that's only 1 block of stone thick. But really, the only one I want to be looking believable is the very top row. Getting like super detailed to make sure that lines on this side match the lines on this side. So no, that's a little too much. I just want it to look real at a glance. If you know, if one of your players wants to pick it up and really nitpick, you know, whatever, let them. And you know, and then tell them, you know, if you want to spend the time doing it, be my guest. Or could make these from actual individual pieces. I wouldn't recommend that. It would take a long time and would suck. But there we go. One of these is now ready for, well, it's not ready for painting just yet, because I want to make those wedges, which are going to be a lot smaller than this. Before I do any painting, I want to make the wedges and put those on there. And that's it. So this is going to take me even longer to do than jamming all of the foil on there to make the texture. So I may sign off for now, because this is going to take a while. Yeah, I think I'm going to sign off. So, and then work on this on my own throughout the rest of the day. And if you want to watch how I finish these, the video will be posted on Tuesday. I'm probably not going to do another live again until next week. We'll see. Maybe this will be an every Friday thing. I don't know. We'll see. I'll think about it. But thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And come back on Tuesday for the full video on how I finish these, please. Views and comments really help people find me on the algorithm. So yeah, that's it. So thanks everybody. And you know, have a great weekend. Okay. Peace.